not going to embellish it. I'm going to do my best to give it to you the way I recall it. Okay? Circa 1972, 73, 74, Philadelphia. Naturally, I was 72, I was 10, almost 11 years old. Okay, 10. Okay, so what was I doing? I started playing with guns. We used to make zip guns. The neighborhoods themselves were different sectors of zone. North Philadelphia was a whole city in itself to us. It was the biggest part of the city, but we weren't even talking about the Germantown and Nicetown because we didn't consider it. We talking about hardcore concrete North Philadelphia. They were very treacherous. Every gang neighborhood had their own sentinels or so-called guardians, which was interpreted as gangs and their tribes, same stuff as in all native land, and they were supposed to be the protectors and sometimes the terrorizers all in one. However, the Nation of Islam was the only thing, the message of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the only thing that made me, when I did get to 13, 14, that made me want to consider stop gang war. We was baby gangsters, so we was the last of it. The cry in North Philadelphia was no more war in 74. That was a common slogan. So that means ceasefire. The older brothers, a lot of the older heads, they said 69 was the pivotal gang year. I'd have missed 69. I was 8 years old, coming out of 7. So, but right after that, that's when because it was in the household. My brother was the gang leader, so initially, and I had a vast family, so I was the baby male, youngest male. So initially, I wasn't the baby child. I was the youngest male, baby boy. So initially, it got down to me, and but I learned part and parcel, and the hoods was tough. That's how I knew the city. I wouldn't know how to get places unless you told me the turf. You told me the village, I know where you're talking about. If you said the valley, which part. If you said the Moroccos, I knew. These were the name of gangs. I didn't necessarily know the blocks, but that's the gang, people that was from gangs knew that. You was in our hood, you was in CNR, Westmoreland Street. Who was our allies? Our crosstown allies was our first cousin, was 21st and North, one of the most vicious or the most notorious gangs in there, but they're our cousins. And my cousins, Lil Wayne, Flash, Nia, Naeem, they're my first cousins. The Waters, and the Bakers. That's in my blood. And we're the Logans, of course. So, and we had enemies, but for me personally, I'm just gang one. I said all of that, they was cool, but anybody that was my age, like Wayne, Flash, Little Dog, Token, them, they my age. So we grew up together. And we was the youngest generation of the gangs, and but a lot of us, we stopped. Only thing made us stop was Islam, man. Now, and I'm not talking about desert, so-called desert. I'm talking about what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us as Islam. What was the peace, the safety, security. So safety meaning what? You could go in any neighborhood. I could go on Huntington Street, Venango Street, Pryor. Ooh, it ain't hardly go to school without running. Run to school and back. Commonplace. But now, this is the Islam. See, they didn't fool y'all. Y'all come up here with all this desert shit, but y'all don't need, I know that shit inside and out. And, because my surrogate father is actually from the bloodline of what you think is Islam. So, but yeah.
Now, how did the teachings that you got, did that influence your lyricism when the hip hop thing came in? How did that work for you?
Well, it was the bedrock, because when we say soldier, everything has the yin and the yang, or yin and yang. Everything has a counterpart. You know what I mean? So while the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we learned as a child, I learned that there was 3 things that the pale man wouldn't teach us. That was the science of warfare, the science of mating, and one more. Oh gosh, science of warfare, mating, and economics.
Okay.
And I knew this as a child, because we learned it as a child. So, all the gang wanted from that to science and stuff like that was really applicable. I mean, it was drilled in us, and that's why I remember fruit is best, constantly training and conditioning to meet him. Fruit is best, constantly training and conditioning himself to meet and overcome all obstacles in his path. To do this, he's compelled to be what? Humble, courteous, tolerant, militant, most of all, honest and dependable. See, these are things that we learn from a child. Take charge of this post, our general orders. So when I say soldiering, just because you look at this Navy SEALs and we had on, whether you know it or not.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, this is
so that influenced my lyrics because my message, my thing was to help heal people. So, or write revolution by hook, crook, or fly. You know, the day we took the native raided and took the pot. Hook, crook, or fly. Me and my man Indio, I miss him, man. We was out here, baby. We was doing that Nubian outlaw thing, baby. We was doing it for y'all. Even though we leave them in all. Deep inside, you know we breathing for y'all. And these are signs, and you know that. That's why divine love goes back. The dirty beach combing the hills was often people 30 pieces of